Uganda ey'enkya.
Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, these are very curious moments for us, at least as in this country. And when these moments arise, as the presiding officer, take them in stride for the distinguished statesmen and women from masqueraders, social climbers, and the like. Because
Rob, I thought you were going to present the statement. That's the item we have.
yeah, Right Honourable Speaker, this is the Lob standing, and they can make a preamble to calm the nerves of the House. And it's the reason why we are House of Parliament. And for me, a presentation of the nature is not cram work. I should really make the House feel that we are leaders. We are not here as robots to do crammed stuff. Thank you, Right Honourable Speaker. Right Honourable Speaker, we have mentioned before in this House that our country ranks among the worst performers in as far as respecting, protecting, and promoting of human rights is concerned. On paper, this ranking may not ring a bell to the extent that we can make statements one after another without unsettling the tranquility of the perpetrators of injustice. On the other hand, Right Honourable Speaker, any step taken to expose and detail the scorecard leading to that ranking has always proved discomforting to the perpetrators and faced a lot of resistance from the upper echelons of the state. Nonetheless, Right Honourable Speaker and colleagues, we shall not relent from exposing the systemic human rights abuses and to plead for the full intervention of Parliament in enlisting this problem and finding a durable solution. Right Honourable Speaker and colleagues should recall that we as legislators take oath of allegiance to the Constitution. We derive our authority from the relevant provisions and the spirit of the Constitution. And it is to the provision of the Constitution that we owe allegiance. To put this in context, Right Honourable Speaker, since the Constitution guarantees and mandates institutions of government to respect, protect, and promote human rights, Parliament ought to be the fort in the defense of the rights and freedoms of the people. Now, on 17th October 2023, I listened to and read the statement by the Minister of Internal Affairs relating to the arrival and illegal arrest of the Honourable Kyagulanyi and hundreds of NUP supporters, thwarted NUP prayers, and the dispersion of peaceful demonstrations in the Bali constituency. I submit that the Minister's statement was superficial, shallow, tainted with the material falsehoods and misconstruction of the law, and an attempt to justify repression and a crampdown of political dissent in this country. Right Honourable Speaker, I do not find the Minister's statement tenable, since it has fallen short of addressing the wanton abuse of human rights, the growing state of impunity, general breakdown of the rule of law, and the shrinking civic space. For that, I invite this august House to consider that statement as rejected. Right Honourable Speaker and colleagues, The minister's statement was further depicted government's reluctance to address and remedy human rights violations. I must state here that the minister's statement remains rejected, and I invite this Honourable House to consider it as such. It should be recalled that as a result of the infamous November 2020 shootings, many people lost their lives, whereas scores were maimed. Right, Honourable Speaker, government committed to have the matter investigated. Government committed to have the matter investigated and audited. However, all that has been archived was what has been achieved was the categorization of the victims in clusters of 20 persons who were shot and killed by stray bullets, whereas 34 others were shot and killed for allegedly participating in riots. Right, Honourable Speaker, the state categorized these citizens as rioters and victims, and that was all. The details of the report remain a top secret only to the state, despite the commitment by the President to make the investigation public. It will be exactly 3 years next month since the angel of death was parachuted onto our streets by the very people charged with the duty to protect. Our memories are yet to lose the well-documented evil work of Police Patrol 99917 on the streets of Kampala for 2 solid days, and the legacy of its occupants. Ugandans demand to know whether the occupants of that police vehicle were aliens without a trace, or their evil acts a living testimony to the jungle in which we are entrapped. Right, Honourable Speaker, Mr. Senteza Frank, the bodyguard of Honourable Robert Kyagulanyi Ssentamu, was intentionally knocked down by a military police vehicle, HDDF 2382, at Busega roundabout. There was no follow-up with the family by any state agency 3 years after his killing, or at least an excuse of an investigation report confirming that the murder was premeditated. Right, Honourable Speaker and comrades, Rita Nabukenya was knocked dead off a walkaway by a police vehicle registration number UP4841. No report was made, no follow-up with the family. Instead, the family was being warned not to waste time by trying to follow up. Right, Honourable Speaker, where these government vehicles autopiloted that no driver or commander is available to face charges of premeditated murder of these innocent Ugandans? Is the House of Parliament too timid and cowed to demand from the relevant authorities to make a proper count of both the happenings on the fateful days, as well as demanding justice to the victims' families? Right, Honourable Speaker, we have a good recollection of the many innocent Ugandans who were murdered, whereas others were grievously injured while on campaign trail of Honourable Kyagulanyi Robert Ssentamu during the 2021 general elections. Those who were murdered in cold blood, Right, Honourable Speaker, for the record of Parliament, I repeat their names: Mr. Senteza Frank Karibala, Michael Kalinda, Eke Zige Wine, Rita Nabukenya, Daniel Cheyune, Ibrahim Mutasa, Wile Kayondo of Kubi Roundabout, Sophie Kusasira of Karere B Market, Beka Katoro Bwama, short from Namlanda, Martin Owekiche, Tusubira Elijah Mukibi of Luwero, Umaru Semakula of Entebbe, Katwere Kimuli of Seta, Musi Alan of Kiteto of Mukono, Peter Mwanje of Nansana, Mugera William of Wankulukuku, Batio Sophie of Obongi, Olionji Robert of Obongi, Fungaro Moro of Obongi, Shaba Sheraf of Omonji, Akim Abire of Obongi, deliberately drowned by the UPDF on the 15th of January 2021. Bukere Nuhu, abducted from Mukono municipality, murdered and dumped in Kalangala. Right, Honourable Speaker. Right, Honourable Speaker, the relatives of the deceased are still reeling in bereavement. with no hope of ever receiving justice for the death of their loved ones. But, Honourable Speaker, who question whether the People's Parliament is complicit in these wanton murders and therefore unable to demand accountability and justice. That, Honourable Speaker, the fate of missing Ugandans. On more than one occasion, Right Honourable Speaker, I have tabled to this Honourable House a list of Ugandans missing over the last 2 to 4 years. These persons were picked from their workplaces and homes by state security agencies. Detailed accounts of their arrest and eventual disappearance have been provided by families and friends to whoever cared to listen. Only the state can account for their whereabouts. Right Honourable Speaker, is Parliament so frightened, complicit, or disinterested in demanding the government to prioritize human rights guarantees before anything else for the sake of building a durable human rights record and entrenching the rule of law? Did the Parliament buy into the most flimsy and derogatory reasoning of government and its agencies that the addresses and next of kin of the missing persons are not known? But, Honourable Speaker, for the benefit of those who might, for one reason or another, missed out on the record of missing persons for whom the government has ignored accountability and justice, the following Ugandans matter: Moses Mbabazi, Dennis Zimula, Shafiki Wangolo, Martin Lukwago, Peter Kiria, John Damulira, Michael Semudu, Muhammad Kanata, John Bosco Chibalama, who was last seen by the Prime Minister, Vincent Nalumoso, Yuda Sempijja, Musisi Mbowa, Mustafa Luwemba, Hassan Mubiru, Isima Sesazi, Godfrey Kisembo, George Kasumba, and Joseph Baguma. Honourable Speaker, those are missing Ugandans, and the record has been ascertained by the Human Rights Commission, and the Parliament must, as of necessity and duty, be interested. Honourable Speaker, the victimization and targeted murder of Muslims become fashionable in Uganda, Honourable Speaker, today. For any attack or murder committed, for the state targets Muslims, whom they then indiscriminately kill or imprison without trial. For instance, following the twin bombings of Kampala on 16th of November 2021, Iwan Musa Mudasil alias Mose was shot dead at Wai Sekawempe Division. On the same day, another suspect, Muhammad Kiriowa alias Musa Kiriowa, was shot dead in cold blood. The following day, on 17th November 2021, Sheikh Mohammed Abbas Chirevu was shot dead while on handcuffs by security agencies. This has been the case in many other high-profile cases. Right, Honourable Speaker and colleagues, by law, any arresting officer is allowed reasonable or necessary force in effecting an arrest. The force employed should be proportional to the circumstances. The use of firearms during arrests amounts to excessive force if the suspect is unarmed. Even if some of the suspects were purportedly evading arrest, the firearm should only be used to incapacitate the suspect and deter evasion, but not to kill. Right, Honourable Speaker, reports indicate that most of the victims who have been killed were allegedly already handcuffed, and in essence posed no threat warranting use of a firearm. I would like to throw a quick challenge, Right, Honourable Speaker, to this Honourable House to make a random check across any police cell or government prison. The shocking discovery will be that you have more Muslims in detention without trial. Right, Honourable Speaker, does Parliament consider every Muslim guilty of terrorism at birth? Why isn't Parliament not keenly following and investigating the witch hunt of Muslims using the fact of information available in so many government prisons and other illegal detention centers? What happened to the men in uniform who carried out these cold-blooded murders in broad daylight? Are they bound by the laws of the land? Honourable Speaker, detention without trial. Honourable Speaker and colleagues, those of us who have not sat in any history class, at least have read some literature on Uganda's political history. Detention of people without trial was a common phenomenon in the immediate post-colonial regimes to deter citizens from agitation for freedoms and to contain and keep political opponents at bay. The 1995 Constitution, despite its current mutilated state, has maintained and sustained the 48 hours rule under custody before one is produced before a competent court or released. The essence of this is to ensure speedy and fair trial and the avoidance of keeping innocent persons in detention without just cause. Over the last 3 years, Honourable Speaker, the arrest and detention of several Ugandans without trial represents one of the worst abuses of human rights. In the worst case scenario, where the state desired to hold on to detainees without probable cause, trumped-up charges have been raised against them. These charges cannot be sustained in any court, for they lack premise. Many such victims, including civilians, have ended up in military courts in total violation of the Constitution. Honourable Speaker, in 2021, over 500 NUP supporters were arrested in different parts of the country on various flimsy charges. Most of them were released after 1 year without trial. Some had to pay a ransom to gain their freedom from various military and civilian detention centers. In the group of 2021, Honourable Speaker, over 50 are still languishing in Chitalia and Luzira prisons without trial. 28 of these have been produced in the Army Court Martial, but their trial has never taken shape more than 3 years after their arrest, including one Olivia Lutaya, a mother of 3 little children, who was arrested immediately after birth on the 8th of May, 2021. But, Honourable Speaker, the question of the day is the People's Parliament dozing on duty, complicit, or timid to demand of the military to account for their actions and conduct in the court martial, where hundreds of Ugandans are casually produced as a show without consequence? Honourable Speaker, is the UPDF subordinate to the laws of the land, or the country was long captured by a subtle military junta without an official proclamation of the rule by decree? Honourable Speaker, torture in detention facilities. Honourable Speaker and colleagues, the growing culture by the state security apparatus to torture suspects while in detention. The case of Samuel Masereka, the registrar of NUP in Kasese district. Of course, the famous case of Kakwenza Rukira Basaija are classic examples for people who have ever been abducted by security personnel and subjected to despicable, torturous treatment. Other similar incidents occurred in the recent past. For instance, when the Honorable Kyagulanyi was arrested for Marua and tortured while in detention, Honorable Zake was on several occasions faced it rough to the extent of almost losing his sight, and many other incidents. We cannot say that these are isolated incidents. Honourable Speaker, I sense danger on muzzling dissenting voices and limiting space for holding accountable those in power. If this happened to them today, and no statement or remedial action has been taken by government, how shall we all be spared if our turn comes? In the recent past, Honourable Speaker, this august House has condemned such violations, but same old habits have continued to manifest mainly through enforced disappearances, habitual illegal arrests and detention, torture in detention, detention without trial, unlawful detentions, extrajudicial killings, property grabbing, political persecution, assaulting journalists, and other professionals in the course of duty, among others. Right Honourable Speaker, human rights violations in fishing communities. Right Honourable Speaker, in 2017, the President of Uganda directed that the UPDF be deployed at major lakes in Uganda following a reported depletion of fish stocks due to over and illegal fishing. Following that deployment, the fishing communities have on numerous occasions cried out on gross violation of their rights by men and women in uniform. Reports of rape, defilement, destruction of properties, murders, unjustified arrests, and illegal closure of many landing sites have been reported. Part of the response to these cries by Parliament was the enactment of the Fisheries and Aquaculture Act 2013. The continued presence of the UPDF and their selective actions against citizens must arouse the curiosity of any serious House of Parliament. Right Honourable Speaker, entire communities have been displaced, rendered homeless and jobless. Many persons have been killed, maimed and dishonored. Right Honourable Speaker, do the victims of these illegal actions have any representative in Parliament? Right Honourable Speaker, in the circumstances and absurd as described above, we have the following demands for the government to meet without excuse. One, full accountability for the November 2020 murders in Kampala and beyond, including the actions taken on Police Patrol 99917 and other listed above, and those others listed above, whose occupants were well captured by different media houses and vigilant citizens, shooting live ammunition towards unarmed citizens, and intentional killing of opposition supporters in questionable accidents. Two, accountability for all arrested Muslim clerics and ordinary Muslims throughout the country. A case of a minority faith having majority prisoners. Three, accountability for all the reported 18 disappeared Ugandans, as confirmed by the Uganda Human Rights Commission. Four, accountability for all political prisoners rotting in numerous jails without trial. Five, release of all political prisoners in the court-martial. Six, demand that the Minister of Justice appears before Parliament to detail the House on detention without trial. Seven, accountability for killings by the military in various fishing communities. I so pray, Right Honourable Speaker.
Thank you, Rob. Honourable colleagues, I have seen an aspect of Parliament being asked a lot of questions, and I think Rob will join me in answering those questions because he's a senior leader in Parliament. But Parliament, when I was checking in our records, honourable colleagues, we have given time to issues of human rights. Because I've seen it outside, some members saying, no, they don't consider issues of human rights, they don't. On 18th of August 2022, the House considered and debated the report of our own Human Rights Committee on the status of human rights and human rights violations in the country. On 8th, it was a 150-page report, and Parliament gave it time. We debated it, we gave it attention, and we adopted resolutions. On 8th of February 2022, the Minister of Justice and Constitutional Affairs was given space to present a statement here on reports of alleged human rights violations by the state security operatives. And the issues of torture in this report were extensively handled, and this is on the Hansard. On the 7th of July 2023, again, the Honorable Nabagabi, Flavia, Yes. And I'm a Muchiga. So I don't know much Uganda. It might sound like a Muchiga. Okay? Yeah, but Kasanda, woman MP Kasanda, raised the issue of human rights and torture, which had come up on international delegations. And the Honorable Cecilia Gwar, in fact, is the one who gave a very good guidance, but we discussed this issue. On 18th of July, 2023, the leader of opposition, Honorable Matthias Mpuga, gave his response to the State of the Nation address. And he took a human rights approach. And we had an extensive debate on this. On 3rd of August 2022, the leader of opposition was again given opportunity where he made a response to the State of the Nation address and where issues of human rights were again raised and debated. On 28th of September 2022, the leader of opposition raised issues of matters of forced disappearances and torture of civilians by security operatives, which was responded to, and I think some of the matters are issues which we were trying to work out outside, and the minister will update us on that. So, when you look, these are some of just of the few occasions. When you look at some of these few occasions, just in this time alone, I wouldn't think it would be right to indict Parliament that we have not given space to issues of human rights. We have given them space, the answer is there, and the record is very clear. Now, colleagues, the issue is Parliament has where it stops. I don't know whether Parliament, I can order, because I have over 500 members of Parliament. I think I order each one of you to go and arrest one of these generals and soldiers. I assign you, bring them here. Then Parliament will be seen to be biting. Otherwise, for us as Parliament, for my own understanding, is that we can only work through our committees. Our Committee on Human Rights, as provided for under Rule 185 of our Rules of Procedure, which has been consistent in giving reports. And if there is any other report that is pending, that is ready, I would welcome it. Now, these committees consist of both opposition and the NRM. Honorable colleagues, if there are other issues to do with human rights, and you prepare a motion, I will give that motion space on the order paper. So as a leadership, issues of human rights are so very, very dear to us, and we give them serious attention. And if there is anyone who knows that he has them, please bring them and we shall give them attention. But what we must know is that Parliament has where it stops. And the unfortunate bit of it is things on which we didn't play any role are brought for us here to execute. So we depend on information coming from our colleagues. But what is very critical is that as a Parliament, when we adopt resolutions, then the minister should bring action taken reports on the resolutions. So executive, please crack check for me if there are pending action taken reports on issues of human rights. We also bring them out and without hand. Honorable Sereko.
Right, Honorable Speaker. On the matter of arrest of Moses.
Procedure.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker. This particular statement.
Honorable Nwagaba, we agreed that for procedure to be fluent, we move with the rule.
In respect of Rule 92 of our Rules of Procedure, the statement by the leader of opposition is in response to the statement by the Minister of State for Internal Affairs, which was made on Tuesday.
But Honorable 92.
I'm coming up. Which was made on Tuesday, and the House had not debated the minister's statement, which was made in accordance with Rule 52 or 53. And unlike Rule 66, Right Honourable Speaker, which is clear that you can adjourn once you adjourn under 65, the following day business begins where it stopped. Rule 92 is not very clear what happens to the business that was being conducted when the house is adjourned or suspended because of a disorder. So I invite you to invoke your powers under Rule 8 and allow a debate to proceed in accordance with Rule 92, but maybe moderate in the terms of Rule 66. But my biggest other worry is if we debate statements without specific resolutions, what shall we gain and what shall we do as the House? Would it not also be procedural right that in view of the two statements, which are revealing in nature from the leader of opposition and from the Minister of State, that maybe the two be subjected to one of the committees of this House to come up with a report and specific recommendations for the House to pronounce itself on. I beg to be guided.
Thank you. Now, we usually mix up the old rules and the new rules. So that's why we get a problem. For example, under Rule 8, I don't have that power. Under Rule 7 is where I have that power. Okay? Yeah, so I just wanted that to be clarified. But I'm considering Lopu's statement under Rule 53 as a statement on its own. The statement that came from the minister, we dealt with that business, the way it went that way. I'm not reopening it. The good thing, the one of rope, is more or less a response. Is more or less a response to that statement on top of other issues which the rope has brought out. So substantively, when you debate it, you end up capturing all the issues. So let us first allow a debate, the way I had opened it, then along the way, I will see how best to guide. Because we shall also, for example, Rope has made prayers in his statement. Otherwise, we cannot make resolutions on statements. If we wanted resolution, then we would now come in form of a motion so that we can have very clear resolutions adopted by the House. But for now, I wanted to open up for a few members, and then I'll call on the minister. He comes in, and then we see how best I can guide on the next procedure. And the same one, Chivumbi?
I'm raising on a point of procedure. The demands are specific to government. The demands are specific to responsible ministers. For us to have a meaningful debate, it would be proper that government first responds. Then when government responds, then a debate can ensue. Because these demands are not for an individual MP to speak to. We have put these demands specifically to government to respond. And our own prayer and your indulgence, that government is much present here, represented by the Prime Minister, the Chief Whip, the Internal Affairs Minister, the Minister of Trade, the Minister of Finance, and the whole front bench. And would it be procedural right, Honorable Chair, that we first get a response from the Minister, from government officially to our key demand, because no MP is going to apologize. No MP is going to answer for all those requests. This demand ends up with a list of demands that only government can commit to.
I know the minister has to answer, but Honorable Chivumbi, if you had the statement properly, there are questions which were put to Parliament. And they were very clear, not one, not two, not three, which were depicting Parliament as having failed. Honorable Chivumbi feels I answered enough. Because you see, Parliament as a body, we can only demand accountability. Only accountability from government. Now we cannot be an implementing agency. We cannot be an implementing arm of government. So, Honorable Minister, Me first, Honourable Minister, you wanted...
Uganda Yancha